Right, morning guys, I'm here with Nic Davenport. I actually know the bugger from school and I haven't seen him in a good couple of years, probably 20 years or more. And my brother planned a cull hunt here in the Karoo on Nic's place. And I've got Nic here to explain to you guys where this all started, and he's got an unbelievable gene pool that he himself has built up over the years now with coppers, blacks, whites, and Kalahari rams coming in. So let the chaps know, Nic, where it all started and where you're at now.
No, thanks, Wayne. Yeah, so it started as a young boy growing up and hunting and seeing and knowing that Kalahari buck were always bigger than our Karoo buck, and wanting to somehow find a way to improve our genetic pool. And when I got the opportunity to come and start farming, I noticed that our Springbuck rams were 9-10 inches, and at that time it was the industry game boom where the guys were selling 17-18 inch rams. Yeah. And I started pulling out my tape measure and actually looking, what does a 18 inches look like? It was unbelievable. I couldn't even fathom that Springbuck could get that big.
That's nice.
So I mean, we couldn't afford that quality at that time, and so we bought in what we could afford at the time, which was 14 inch rams, and we started then shooting out inferior males and putting in those 14 inch rams in amongst the Karoo animals. And it's all about, in the Karoo, you know, we sheep farmers actually, and as you know, my parents were in the show jumping and horse industry, so they taught me a lot about genetics when they imported their stallions in from Europe and things like that, and focusing on the mother line. Yeah. My dad used to say the mother line is almost more important than the sire, than the stallion. So
guys, just to point out here, we are not on a game fenced ranch. This is not a game ranch. This is a fully functioning stock ranch where Nic has done what, in my opinion, should be is you've got to run your game with your stock in harmony so you can actually have quality on both sides. It is possible, but guys tend to lead towards either I'm flat out stock farming or they go game farming. And I think this is probably one of the best examples that I've ever seen in the Eastern Cape of doing the two together. And you can see the quality when you're out there, and Nic will explain more on how he built it. So yeah, it's been interesting coming out here and actually just driving around in the truck with you and hearing the little bits and pieces. And I'm from a farming background. Guys, you watch my videos, I'm trying the same thing back home, is run my cattle and run game, and one mustn't affect the other. We've got to have equal balance.
Yeah, so I mean, we farm with Duty Merino sheep. We've also got a few Dorpers. We have Angora goats. You know, we try to do mixed feeding, and Springbuck are part of the Karoo environment. So we want to utilize them as well. It's actually, it makes it interesting to farm, to have these beautiful animals. So we're not there just to kill these animals. We're there to actually enjoy them and to breed them up and to enjoy them. No, definitely. So yeah, we then noticed that it's about, like I said, rand per hectare. If you've got one little bush that's going to be eaten, why must it be eaten by an inferior animal that's going to bring you in $100? Yeah. Whereas you could put the same animal in with inferior body size and horn, and it's going to eat the same, roughly the same amount, but it's going to bring you in 5 times more. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do here, and then it pushed out to the color variants as well. So as we know, amongst the hunting fraternity, the guys want to try and shoot a Grand Slam. Yeah. And so we want. That's
a goal for most guys that come out and shoot Springbuck.
Yeah. So we want to have a good quality white buck, a black buck, a copper buck, and then a common. Sorry, excuse me. And so on the common side of things, we're really pushing the envelope to have because it's not just so-called trophy hunters. I don't like the word trophy hunting. No. We want to produce a good quality representative animal, and we feel that in the days of old, like in our forefathers' times, there weren't fences around, so the Springbuck used to
a good old-fashioned track book.
The migration. There were 1 million animals moving from the Kalahari to the Karoo, and they would take 3 days to pass one point. Yeah. So you could think of the genetic diversity within that herd. So now, yeah, our forefathers staked out some fences and started sheep farming.
Yeah.
But within that sheep farming environment, now we have the Springbuck that are sort of, let's call it, stuck in that 400 hectares. So we use that now to, because there's not so much genetic movement across the farm.
Across the fences.
So we've got to then sort of manipulate that to a degree to try and make it as natural as possible. But we do buy in rams every year. And to take it back to farming, and like I said with the horses, we don't just buy rams. We started 2 or 3 clean camps with good quality females and good quality rams. And then we use that. From my Dorper side of things, we have a select flock.
Yeah.
And that select flock, you breed your flock rams to put onto the baseline herd.
Yeah.
And so we're doing the same thing where the money we're spending on the Springbuck that we're bringing in, we're breeding to a point that we catch those youngsters and go and put them in amongst the other buck to improve the whole quality of.
So it's across the board, guys. One thing that you'll notice here is the size of the body matches the size of the horn. It's unbelievable if you see the size of these Springbuck body size. And me being on the coast, hunting Springbuck there, Springbuck were small. They're not big animals. But when you heard the stories of guys going to hunt in Namibia and, you know, getting into those, you shoot big body Springbuck. And the Karoo was known for that. And then if you talk about the fences, that's kind of what slowed it all down. And now Nic's bringing that all back. And you can see, with the naked eye, a Karoo Springbuck in amongst his quality Springbuck, something that's stuck through the fence. It stands out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. So you touched on a very important point there. It's all about having the proportions right.
Yeah.
You can't have this tiny little 20 kg type ram with 17-inch horns. It looks wrong.
Stupid, yeah.
And vice versa. These Damra Springbuck rams that have got 12-inch horns, it looks wrong. So I don't want to push that, that we're just going horns. When we choose these animals, we're choosing a sire. The jizz of the animal must look like a breeding animal. It must, if you see Springbuck, you must be able to see that's the ram. Yes. You mustn't still have to look in amongst the herd and difficulty to find the ram. So so where we started with rams like this. This is an average Karoo ram, and I would say this ram is around 10 inches or so.
I'd say so too.
And this ram would have slaughtered out at roughly 21, 22 kilos. Now, when we saw,
and we would have been that's a big ram. Yes,
that's not a big ram today. And when we're talking, it's field dressed now. So that's the head and the feet off and the guts, everything out. That's just the body with the skin on. Okay. So to show you where we've gone now, and I'll try and bring the other one back into the frame.
Holy smokes!
This is a 17 3/4 inch ram that we have used as a breeding ram, and this type of ram would have slaughtered out at 30 kilos. Yep. So we've gone 8 kilos up on body and probably 5 or 7 inches on horn. Yeah. Okay, so you can see it kicks back nicely.
Beautiful kickback. This is an exceptional
example. So if I try and put the noses and the bases at the same height, you can clearly see where we went.
Yeah, and this is what you have now.
We actually have come to. Yeah. We've improved the genetics. So just to finish up and to touch up on that, it's about sustainable farming, and it's we're planting in speckworm. We're trying to farm properly with our sheep and with our Springbuck. We have to manage these animals. There's no more lions in this area.
Yeah, it's absolute balance.
It's about balance, and that's where your group also completes the picture, because we need to take off animals. With a sheep, we can push them into a kraal, and you can load them on the truck and send them to the abattoir. Unfortunately, Springbuck are way too mobile to do that. So we need to get oaks in, and then we can shoot off. And we carefully only take off 20% of the herd across the farm. And then from there, we breed them up again. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to farm. And I know I say this because a lot of people are quite touchy about hunting.
Yes.
But to us, it's not about the killing of the animals. We focus more on the animal themselves and enjoy the animals. But in order to enjoy them and to have them here, unfortunately, you do need to hunt them. And the meat always goes to I don't want to say a good cause, but it always gets used.
It's all utilized. Nothing's wasted,
waste.
guys.
Yeah.
And you guys have watched the channel, and I'm all about everything gets used. Everything gets used in moderation. Nothing gets, like, you're not going to exploit it. We're not coming out here and shooting 400 springbuck and just, we're not bloodthirsty. It's select. So Nic has his select groups coming out. He's done his quotas. He's done his totals. He knows. And the nice thing that Nic's got to his availability is he's got great connections with his landowners. And that's also where Nic's helping them on their side with their gene pools, because we're shooting the inferior stuff out there. And that's where touchy subject where South African hunters use more favorable, international or South African. Guys, it's got to be a blend of two. Yeah. And I think a lot of outfitters, and a good friend of mine, Dylan, mentioned in one of his podcasts, Dylan Love from the PH Journals, chasing the dollar tree has really affected, I think, the industry itself. And I'll probably be called out for this. It's great for us to make dollars. Dollars go a long way in South Africa itself. And if you are into that industry, it's fine. But I do think like landowners like Nic are the guys that are leading it, because he doesn't stop international hunters. He's planning for Grand Slams. Grand Slams come out. It's not limiting South Africans. If South Africans want to do a Grand Slam, they can, chat to Nic. And he does the cull programs. And we've had a cracker of a time coming from the coast to hunting, the Karoo. It's a completely different ball game. I can't even tell you how many springbuck I saw. I must have had herds running past me of maybe 50, 60, and it's different groups all the time. And we did it traditionally where the guys were on horseback. We had guys, just no beating, no noising, just guys just walking up and down.
Yeah.
They dressed in their orange, and it just kind of moved the springbuck, and everyone was set out carefully. Safety, paramount, safety. We all know that we like shooting. We need to be cautious of where those bullets end up. And Nic does a great job with his team, setting everyone up, giving each person an arc where they're safe to hunt. And I think, just speaking for myself, I've had a cracker of a time here, but and really appreciate you hosting us. And I think every single chap out there has had a whale of a time.
No, thanks a lot. And just to end off, two things. We don't, that herd only gets shot at for that one day in the whole year.
Yeah.
The other 364 days of the year, they are eating and grazing peacefully. And I don't drive around with a rifle. I drive around with binoculars, and I look at springbuck and count them and work them out, and then we'll see what we need to take out. Yes, maybe one other day of the year we'll go in there if we see an inferior ram has come in.
Yeah.
That needs to be
taken out
so that the right ram
carries on.
Breed. But we've got to the point now where the herd ram also needs to naturally, take ownership of the herd, and he should be able to kick out any of these smaller animals. But yeah, it does sometimes, with the height difference, these animals can get in under the bigger buck.
Don't misjudge a little bugger. Sometimes he throws the biggest punch.
Yeah.
So we got, it's great management. And I think, just to end it off here, is I think a lot of farmers, just straight up, I'll repeat it again, need to look at this model, because it does work. But I think Nic took the bull by the horns and said, I'm doing this, and stuck to it. I think a lot of guys try and they just peter out. But this is a story that I think I want to carry on with. And if I get to visit Nic next year, we'll check in with him, check what's happening with the herds, and see if he's reached that magical 20+ inch gram.
We're going to get there. Yeah. No, but thanks a lot.
It's been a pleasure.
We're doing it for the love and the passion, but it takes a lot of perseverance, and hopefully one day my son, who's also around here now, will carry on with it. He also enjoys it. So it's about also passing on the baton and taking what you've got and giving it back in a better condition than what you received.
Yeah, you're leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
And I think when your lighty takes us over, he's going to have one hell of a legacy to carry on with.
Thanks, boy.
So, guys, if you're enjoying this, hit the like and subscribe button. Join us on the channel. And I really want to try and do more stuff like this and get you guys to learn the full experience of South Africa, the way South Africans hunt, the way we live here. And I think it'll just be an eye-opener for the rest of the world. So, till later, guys. Cheers.
Cheers,